In the opening game of the NFL season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Dallas Cowboys 31-29. There's a lot to unpack here. First of all, it was an incredible game, like really fun to watch. And I think as fans of football, we got spoiled. I mean, to have the first game of the NFL season end the way it did, with a minute and 24 seconds left in the game, Tom Brady gets the ball down 1 point, needs a field goal to win. He got the field goal, put together a great drive, had a great throw down the left sideline to Chris Godwin, back shoulder fade. And then Ryan Suckup nailed the game winner from 36 yards out. Buccaneers win. Now, I have to admit, this game was a lot closer than I expected, and I have mixed emotions about it. First of all, I predicted that Dallas would go 6-11 this year, and I'm already feeling a lot of pressure. People are messaging me, telling me I got to back off on my take and backtrack, and how could you say 6-11? And look, I could be wrong. You make predictions, you're bound to get some of them wrong. But look, also, I'm very open to changing my mind. I've repeatedly in the past tried to be very willing to evolve with the new information I get. But it's also only one game. I remember last year, I said that Jacksonville was going to be terrible and tanking. And week 1, they beat the Indianapolis Colts. And I went, oh, wow. And I reversed my opinion, and I shouldn't have. I should have stuck with my guns. So let's see where Dallas is in November. I'm not ready to be like, oh, they're going to have a great year and win a Super Bowl. Like, slow down. It's one game that, by the way, they didn't win. And the skeptic in me wants to say, well, this is exactly what I predicted. They're a fun team that can't win games. Now, I can't say that with a straight face. I don't actually believe that. And Dallas did impress me in a couple of ways. Like, I have to give them credit, first of all, to their quarterback, Dak Prescott. Oh, my goodness. Dak was incredible against Tampa. Especially, with context, you realize, like, this guy's coming off of a season-ending injury last year, barely played at all last year. He's really not been playing very much in training camp. He not only didn't look rusty at all, but, and I truly believe this, against Tampa, that's the best I've ever seen Dak Prescott play. Like, I've never seen Dak look like that. Great pocket movement, big accurate throws downfield, great pre-snap reads, getting the ball out of his hands very, very quickly, very decisive decision-making, stepping into hits as he throws. He had a throw down the right sideline of Amari Cooper, I guess maybe on an out route, where he just got nailed. No hesitation, stepped into it. Like, that does not look like a guy that hasn't played. I think it was in 333 days. Like, Dak did not show any sign of rust. And in fact, again, like, he played better than I've ever seen him play in the NFL. And honestly, I think this is the first time I've ever felt like Dak is not overpaid, where clearly this dude put in a ton of work and he's earning that contract. I remember when Joe Flacco got a massive contract with Baltimore, years ago now. And I kind of rolled my eyes at that and I went like, oh, Joe Flacco, like, come on, man. And I think looking back, I kind of felt that way about Dak Prescott. Dak got this massive contract, and I just felt like a little bit he was getting overpaid. And look, I like Dak. He's got a great story. I don't really understand how you can hate the Cowboys. I don't really get how anybody hates Dak Prescott, the person. Like, he's too compelling of a story and a human being. Seems like a great guy. But I think I did really, in my heart, feel like Dak Prescott was overpaid. And I'll tell you what, if he plays like that the rest of the year, then Dak is worth every penny. He had this great play where he recovered from a bad snap on the goal line, caught it, threw a touchdown pass. And on the day, let me be clear, Dak Prescott was 42 for 58 passing, 403 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Just a monumentally good football game. And yeah, Dak threw an interception. Now, for context, let's be clear, he actually threw a great ball over the middle to CeeDee Lamb and went right through CeeDee Lamb's hands. Should have been caught. Should have been a play where you go, what a great throw, what a great catch. Instead, got picked off because CeeDee Lamb didn't do his job. Now, it is kind of a wash, though, because Tampa Bay linebacker Levante David did drop an interception earlier in the game, so they got one they shouldn't have. They also dropped the one they should have had. I don't know. It's kind of a wash. They all kind of average this out. But it really cannot be overstated that Dak Prescott was easily throwing for big chunks of yardage downfield. And by the way, both CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper had over 100 yards receiving. Like, just a phenomenal game from Dak Prescott. Very, very impressive. And I walked away feeling great about Dak. And I would imagine pretty much every other anybody who's a fan of the Cowboys, I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I'm sure that Cowboys fans walked away from this game going like, yeah, that was money well spent. We feel very good about this. Now, the Cowboys as a whole, aside from Dak Prescott, there's some good stuff, there's some bad stuff. First of all, I maintain that the Cowboys secondary is a really big weakness. They just do not have a number 2 corner. And look, teams are going to make them pay for that. When they play teams that have good receivers, they're going to attack that number 2 backup corner spot, and it's going to be a weakness all year. But first, I want to give some credit to Dallas because they had their coaching staff had some weird moments, but I want to give them credit where credit is due. Their offensive game plan was fantastic because Tampa Bay's front 7 is loaded. They stop the run really well. They stifle offensive lines. They get pressure on quarterbacks. They hit quarterbacks a lot. And Dallas had this great plan to neutralize Tampa's front 7 by, getting the ball out of Dak's hands very, very quickly and not really running the ball. They only ran the ball 14 times with running backs, the Cowboys did. And Dak, meanwhile, threw the ball 58 times. They were like, Dak, get the ball out of your hands very, very quickly, attack the perimeter. And look, if a defense has a good pass rush, it doesn't matter if the quarterback's getting the ball out of his hands almost immediately. Like, hey, great, you can get after the quarterback. Oh, but the ball's out of his hands before you can even do anything. So I want to give credit there because I'm going to talk about some stuff the Cowboys coaching staff did that I didn't like, but I want to start with that baseline of praising them because, to be fair, their game plan on offense was brilliant, and it's part of how they were so successful against Tampa. Now, Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy had a number of very weird in-game decisions. Number one, there was a moment before halftime where Cowboys kicker Greg Zuerlein, a guy who leading up to halftime had been struggling all game. He missed an extra point. He missed a short field goal. And so to me, it was very baffling when Mike McCarthy made the decision to send out Greg Zuerlein to kick a 60-yard field goal before halftime. And it's like, that seems like a bad decision for a couple reasons. First of all, you're not likely to make the kick. But second of all, they got lucky because the result was that Tampa got the ball at midfield with 15 seconds before halftime. And think about it this way. With one big play, Tampa Bay could have been in field goal range and gotten even more points before halftime. So I would say that Mike McCarthy got lucky before halftime that he didn't give up at least a field goal to Tampa Bay. And then there was another mistake later, very end of the game, 4th and 6. And now, let me be transparent here. It's kind of a catch-22. You're doomed if you don't. Or I guess you're damned if you don't. You're damned if you do. And I think no matter what Mike McCarthy did here, somebody was going to criticize him. Now, I would like to think I land in the camp of guys who would have felt better about him going for it. But let me break it down. On 4th and 6, with just over a minute left, Dallas kicked a field goal to take a 1-point lead. And the result was that they gave the ball back to Tom Brady with a minute and 24 seconds left. Now, look, if you go for it on 4th and 6 and you don't get it, then the media, especially in Dallas, is going to crucify Mike McCarthy. So I acknowledge the catch-22 here. But I would not have had a kicker. First of all, they're lucky that their kicker, Greg Zuerlein, made the kick. Remember, he's at that point had missed 3 different kicks in this game. So it's a really weird vote of confidence for a guy who's missed 3 kicks to go kick the game leading, the go-ahead 48-yard field goal with a minute and 24 seconds left. And then number 2, I simply would not give the ball back to Tom Brady. That never seems like a good idea. I would rather lose on 4th and 6 with control of the game than just give the ball back to Tom Brady, roll the dice, and hope he's not going to take the lead. You could have justified going for it on 4th and 6. I know that's a hard question to answer, but you would have said, well, look, our kicker's struggling. I'm not going to give the ball back to Tom Brady. Dak Prescott's having the game of his life. Mike McCarthy could have justified it to the media after the game if they'd gone for it on 4th and 6 and not gotten it. But also, what if they'd gotten it? They would have had control of the ball. They would have made the field goal. They could have won this game. This was a very, for many reasons, I'll get to it later, this is a very winnable game for Dallas. Now, Tom Brady did get the ball with a minute left, and he did put together a great drive. They did win the game instead of Dallas. And I just got to say, I had no doubt when Tom Brady got the ball back, minute 24 seconds left. Am I the only person who's Tom Brady's going to win this football game? We all thought that. And it just seemed weird to me that, was Mike McCarthy the only person on planet Earth that didn't think that giving the ball back to Tom Brady was a bad idea when you've barely been able to stop him all night, threw for 4 touchdowns, 379 yards passing, just dominating the Cowboys defense. And so, I don't know, man. I just, Tom Brady's done it too many times for me to be comfortable giving him the ball at the end of a game. I'm like, I am just not messing with that at all. I would have rather gone for it on 4th and 6. Now, and look, someone's going to comment because that's an easy thing to say, but I truly would hope that in the future, if later during the season there's another moment like that where, and Tom Brady's a different beast, right? Normally I'd say kick the field goal, take the sure points, but against Tom Brady in particular, I'm not giving that guy the ball back at the end of a game. Now, there are a couple of misleading stats from this game. First of all, one of the field goals that Greg Zuerlein missed, I don't know that it's fair to blame him. Like, he should not have been put in a position where he had to kick a 60-yard field goal. That's never a good idea, and especially when he's already struggling on kicking that night. In my opinion, that's on Mike McCarthy, not on Greg Zuerlein. Like, there should be a little asterisk next to that one where he was not put in a good position to be successful, which is what a coach's job is to put his players in a spot where they can do well. Now, there are also 2 stats where Tom Brady had 2 interceptions. I would put an asterisk next to them as well, where one of them bounced off of Leonard Fournette's hands on a screen pass, got picked off. Another one later was right before halftime. Tom Brady threw a Hail Mary that got picked off. That's not bad decision-making. That's unfortunate stuff that happens. And so I always try to point out when something happens that is not, like, because people hold interceptions against players forever. And later in the year, people go, well, Tom Brady had 2 interceptions against Dallas. Well, let's be clear. They weren't like he made bad throws or bad decisions. One bounced off his running back's hands. The other was on a Hail Mary before halftime. It's not really fair to blame Tom Brady for that. I will circle back later if I have to. Now, on paper, Dallas should have won this game. They dominated time of possession. They had, Tampa had 11 penalties for 106 yards. That's awful. On top of that, Tampa also had 4 turnovers, 2 interceptions, the ones I mentioned, and 2 fumbles. So for Tampa to have 4 turnovers and still win the game, my interpretation of that fact is that Tampa, I think, played really, really sloppy and helped make Dallas look a lot better than they actually are, or at least maybe not better than they actually are, but they definitely made Dallas look good by allowing them to hang around this game. For example, Chris Godwin fumbled on the goal line, and if instead of fumbling, Tampa had scored a touchdown there, they would have been up by 2 scores late in the game and would not have needed some dramatic comeback to get the victory. So, I just think a lot of the stuff that allowed Dallas to hang around was Tampa making mistakes rather than Dallas being this great football team. Now, there are a couple of other things. On a 3rd and 6, Dallas made a call that I would criticize, a defensive call. They blitzed and they played cover 0, which means that they did an all-out blitz after Tom Brady on defense and played man-to-man coverage with no help at all from any safeties or any other help at all. And to me, that's a bad call. First of all, I never would blitz Tom Brady if I was a defensive coordinator. Tom Brady likes it. He's very happy to have you bring extra defenders after him. He'll take a hit because it gives him better matchups downfield. 3rd and 6 in the red zone, they did that. Tom Brady threw an easy touchdown pass. And I was sitting there going come on, guy, don't we know? You do not blitz Tom Brady. That is never a good decision. It's also crazy. I want to mention, I cannot believe that this Tampa Bay team has Antonio Brown. It's the word that comes to mind is gluttonous. You ever seen a guy in movies? You see a fat king who doesn't need more food, but they bring in another roasted pig, and you're like, man, that guy's just a glutton. I cannot believe that the Buccaneers have Antonio Brown as a receiver. They don't need him. It's crazy how talented he is. He's just extra, and gosh, it makes Tampa really, really hard to defend. He had a couple big catches down the sideline. One of them was a long 47-yard touchdown pass. There was one even earlier before that, though, where Tom Brady, it was almost like a check down where, Antonio Brown ran a sluggo down the right sideline. Tom Brady doesn't see anybody open, just throws a beautiful ball, and Antonio Brown is so good with his body control where he wasn't really open. There's a defender behind him, but he slows down his body, waits till the ball is coming down, dropping ahead of him, and then accelerates under the ball and just beats his man to the ball. And that's manipulation of body control and where and when to go after the ball. My buddy who played receiver at Portland State broke it down for me. Antonio Brown is so good, and the Buccaneers don't need him, and it's crazy. I just have to mention, it's insane that they have him on that roster. Running back Giovanni Bernard had 2 catches for Tampa. One was a crucial catch on their final field goal drive. Very quietly, Giovanni Bernard was a really good addition to that Buccaneers roster. We're going to see that pay off later in the year where his ability to catch passes out of the backfield is invaluable. It's kind of the James White type of player that Tampa didn't really have last year. Like, they won a Super Bowl without that type of player last year. So having Giovanni Bernard just is more extra they didn't need. Tampa corner Sean Murphy-Bunting got hurt. Apparently he will be fine, though. The quote is just, and I say just, in quotations, he just dislocated his elbow. Something you or me would like be horrible about. It would just be awful for me to dislocate my elbow. You would probably feel the same way. He's probably going to suit up next week. But, they were okay. Sean Murphy-Bunting got hurt at corner. They replaced him with Jamel Dean. Jamel Dean did a pretty good job. It was interesting hearing Chris Collinsworth repeatedly talk about how Tampa, they have no depth in their secondary. They do. They have Jamel Dean. He's a really good player who they have 3 good corners in Tampa. So if one of them gets hurt, Jamel Dean can step up, and we saw that against Dallas. I don't know, man. One final thought I have is that we got to see Drew Brees broadcast at halftime. That was pretty cool. I've never seen Drew Brees work on TV before. He looked a bit nervous, but I want to give credit to Drew Brees. He did a really good job breaking down Dak Prescott, and I'm hoping to see more Drew Brees as time goes on.